Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of these end times. This will be a follow-up to my last program about the very evil cover of the January issue of National Geographic. And I stated on my first program that this is not really about transgenderism. Not nearly so much as it is about pedophilia and child pornography and sexual prostitution of little children. And the reason is because the world's elite are very much into pedophilia. The one world government will be very evil as far as sexually abusing children goes. And I want to talk about on this program of how this National Geographic cover is derived from a very famous painting called Olympia, painted back in 1863 by a French artist, Edouard Manet. But why did they use a painting of a prostitute as the inspiration for their cover, rather than, let's say, a painting of transgenderism? There are many famous examples they could have used. In order to understand that, and therefore to understand the real meaning of this National Geographic cover, let's take a closer look at the painting. Notice that the focus of Olympia is the hand over her crotch. It's very close to the exact center of the painting. And there is a very strong vertical line in the background, that is from top to bottom, that draws your eye to this very obscene hand. If we understand the meaning of the hand, we will understand the meaning of the painting Olympia, and also the meaning of the National Geographic cover. So now, I think it's pretty obvious that this cover of the National Geographic magazine, we see that the focus is also on the child's hand. There are many similarities between the cover and the painting. Notice, for example, both figures are in an interior scene. Both are in a semi-reclining position, although they are facing in opposite directions. Also notice that vertical line, which draws attention to the hand and the crotch, in the painting also draws attention to the hand and the crotch in the National Geographic magazine cover. So now I think maybe if we come to understand the painting, we will understand the National Geographic Obscene cover. In order to help us, I thought I would refer to an article in Wikipedia, and I think this is very instructive. And this is what they write. What shocked contemporary audiences was not Olympia's nudity, nor the presence of her fully clothed maid, but her confrontational gaze, and a number of details identifying her as a demi-mondaine or prostitute. So this is very interesting. Let's take a closer look at the facial gaze and expression on both the cover and in the painting. According to Wikipedia, this confrontational gaze signifies a prostitute. Notice the gaze on both Olympia and the child are almost identical. Also, the expression on both faces are almost the same. I think it's pretty obvious that National Geographic plagiarized their cover from the Manet painting. Continuing now with this article from Wikipedia, Olympia was a name associated with prostitutes in 1860s Paris. So now we know why the National Geographic chose this Olympia painting as a source for their cover, because the painting portrays a prostitute, not a transgender. And this article continues. The painting is modeled after Titian's Venus of Urbino, whereas the left hand of Titian's Venus is curled and appears to entice. Olympia's left hand appears to block, which has been interpreted as symbolic of her sexual independence from men and her role as a prostitute. Okay, again, another reference to prostitution. Let's take a closer look at these two hands. I don't think there can be any doubt that the National Geographic photographer borrowed the hand location on the child from the hand location of the prostitute Olympia in the Manet painting. That hand position is not natural. That has been posed by the photographer. The hand and the crotch area are the focus of both the painting and the magazine cover. If the National Geographic image was really promoting transgenderism, the boy would be wearing a dress, but he's not. The entire focus of this National Geographic image is on sex, just as it is in Manet's painting. The National Geographic cover is showing us a child prostitute. That is the real focus of the world's elite, the Illuminati, the evil people that run this planet and who control National Geographic magazine. In fact, you may have noticed that the resting hand in both the Manet painting and the National Geographic cover are also very similar. And this article from Wikipedia continues, Manet replaced the little dog, symbol of fidelity, in Titian's painting with a black cat, which traditionally symbolized prostitution once again. So now let's take a closer look at this cat on the Manet painting. So here's the cat at the foot of the prostitute on Manet's painting. But the question is there also a cat on the cover of the National Geographic? And it's very interesting. One of my subscribers, I believe Jack Clark, pointed out to me, let's look closer at this very important detail on the shirt of the child on the National Geographic cover. Notice, please, one of the cat's eyes is covered with an eye patch. The eye patch is in the shape of a heart. And I am sure we are all well aware that the all-seeing eye is the #1 symbol of the Illuminati. This cover is not about transgenderism. I mean, they are promoting that, but they are also promoting the sexual agenda of the one world government. There is even an all-seeing eye, for example, on your dollar bill. The all-seeing eye represents the Antichrist at the peak of a pyramid, which means that he alone rules the one world government. I think we are beginning to see the real agenda on this National Geographic cover. And continuing with this article, finally, Olympia is fairly thin by the artistic standards of the time, and her relatively undeveloped body is more girlish than womanly. Well, that's interesting. They chose this painting for a very important reason. I think they are telling us that the Antichrist might just not be a homosexual, but also a pedophile. I know that might be surprising to a lot of Bible scholars, but as I mentioned in my last video, this magazine cover would be a pride to the pedophile Jimmy Savile. In fact, I have to pronounce that name correctly because one of my subscribers complained. My question is Jimmy Savile a forerunner of the Antichrist? Let's take one last close-up of the child's hands as promoted by the National Geographic. There's no doubt this is a disgusting magazine cover. The child's hand is shown as in female masturbation. But did you notice especially the location of the fingers? Now you won't find this on the Manet painting. Here there are 3 fingers going down into the crotch area and 2 on top. As you, my regular subscribers, know full well, the 2 over 3 symbolizes man over God, and the fraction 2/3 equals the decimal 0.666, the number of the Antichrist. Now please don't try to tell me these people don't know what they are doing. This magazine cover is in your face, not just as far as transgenderism goes, but as far as pedophilia goes, as far as child prostitution goes, as far as pornography goes, as far as the one world government and the Antichrist go. These people want to enslave you. They want to enslave you sexually, and they themselves prefer child pedophilia, and you can't do one thing about it. And that's what they are telling you. But I want to tell you, one world people, you do not get the last laugh. The Bible says you will be cast into hell. And your 2 leaders, the false prophet and the Antichrist, they will be cast alive into hell. And all that prophecy, that will come true. And if you would like more information about my ministry here on YouTube, visit my thirdeaglemedia.com website.